Hey everyone. This is basically just showing a demo of how I might approach um, using the pen tool and tracing a complicated image like this one. So you can see that I've already imported this into Illustrator. I used File, Place, and then put it on a bottom layer called Photo. I've locked that layer. I'm going to go up here to where it says green color. I might actually make more layers eventually, but we'll see. And again, as is usually the case when you're tracing things like this, the idea is that you want to sort of break it up into groups, into general shapes. And I'm looking at the green shape of his body, and I can see that his front leg is kind of part of that shape. The back leg is kind of blurred, so I'm going to make that its own shape. And then the arm I'm going to keep as part of the body as well. So first I'm going to start by tracing just the green part of the body using the pen tool. So I'm going to basically click and then go to a point where I see a slight bit of a curve, click and drag, and go to the next curve, click and drag. And once again, for smaller curves, just click and drag a tiny bit. I'm going to hit Shift X right now to make sure that my pen is not filling in the space. And I'm sort of just going around the general area here. And I hope that mouse thing is not too distracting. I am going to change the color of this as usual. I like to pick a color that doesn't exist in the actual image, which is often this sort of hot pink color. Okay, so I'm going to basically go here. And this mouth part is kind of complicated. I'm going to leave the very slender bottom of the mouth as its own piece, since it's more of a white color than a green color. And then get in here. And again, I'm making very small corners just where the small curves are. And remember, if you want to start a new direction with the pen tool, you can click back on the point that you have just created. I'm going to simplify this just a tiny bit. And again, always trying to create these images with as few curves as possible. So I'm just going through here. And again, click, hold, and drag to make small curves. And as I'm looking at this, I'm not quite sure exactly how I'm going to do the coloration on all of it, but we'll see what happens. I may not do a complete demonstration of this just because it's going to be a really long video if I do, but I think giving you the general idea here will be helpful. Okay, so there's my basic frog shape. I'm going to look here at other shapes that I might want to use. I'm going to hit Command and plus to zoom in a bit, space bar, and I'm going to draw this eye shape. And remember, the shape that we draw first will be on the bottom, so I'm going to start with the black shape. And this I'm going to use an oval for, so I just grab that ellipse tool, and I'm going to start by just drawing an oval here. And then using the direct select tool, which I get by hitting V on my keyboard. Should get V, or maybe it's A. I'm going to go ahead and click individually, again using the direct select tool, the white arrow, and drag these individual points around to get it to match the shape. And as you can see, just with a simple oval, I was able to match the shape pretty closely. Now I'm going to go ahead and zoom in again and draw that eye shape, the actual, and this is kind of an interesting silvery color. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do it. Probably use gray and maybe some gradients in there, depending on how detailed I want to be. And it's kind of crunchy, this outline. It's not a real smooth oval, so I'm going to actually, again, use the pen tool and try to avoid drawing directly on top of the curve that I just made. And I'll adjust that in a little bit. So again, Switching over here. Okay. And I could make this a compound path. I'm going to make this a separate shape for now. Just keep it easy. I'm going to just click, hold, and drag. And click, hold, and drag. Click, hold, and drag, and join to get that center of the eye. I'm going to stop using the pen tool for just a second. Hit P. Switch over to the ellipse tool again. And I'm going to add a highlight here, even though it's not on the image. I'm going to add a little highlight shape just because, generally speaking, highlighting. You'll see what I do with it in a minute. Now I'm looking at these other like weird details and shapes, and I'm going to add some of those in. I'm going to use the pen tool. You could use the pencil tool for this if you like. Again, I typically just like the pen tool because it offers me a lot of control. And I'm just going to draw these shapes here. First, hit P every time I want to switch to a different tool. And again, go in here, here, and I might actually have to draw an actual shape for this little lower eyelid spot because it's thicker. So I'm actually going to make this into a really skinny sort of filled in shape. And then I'm going to go ahead and draw this little curvy shape here as well. Okay, hit P. Okay, so there's most of my sort of details. I'll worry about the nose a little later. And let's see. Yeah, hitting space bar to get the hand tool to move things around. Let's start adding some color. I'm going to go ahead and start by just making this sort of a very, very dark gray. And then probably want to switch that to complete black. I'll make this a medium gray. I'm accidentally filling in my strokes instead of checking my fills. And then I'll grab this again, switch to the fill that with black, delete the stroke. And I do think I am going to make this one filled with black instead of gray. And then finally I'll make this little highlight here. Clicking on the white. Okay, so that's getting there. Again, in a perfect world, I'd probably add some other shapes into this eye and maybe a gradient in there. But for now, I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to go ahead and make these two strokes black. And I'm going to go to my stroke panel and go down to here to where it says uniform. And I'm going to change it. I'm going to try this width profile number 5. And go ahead and make that a much stronger stroke. Maybe 2. And then I'm going to go up to, I don't see my opacity here, so I'm going to go find my transparency panel down here, the little overlapping circles. Change this to multiply. And change this to about, what do I got here, 78%. So what that's going to do is it's going to allow the black to sort of mix with the green background. And I'm going to fill this. Again, I'll hit Shift X to swap the fill and stroke. And then I'll go ahead and just click this black fill in my panel here. And I'll do the same thing. I should be able to grab this. If I have the regular selection tool, I should be able to get the opacity settings up here. Again, with the regular selection tool, set that to multiply, drop this back to about 75 maybe, and we'll see what happens when I add color to it. Okay, so now let's add this green color and see how that looks. I'm going to use the eyedropper and just pick a green color here. That looks pretty good. I might want to go with these lines and go and blur them a little bit, but I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to make a couple of adjustments here. Just drag these lines out a bit to get them to be a little more accurate. Maybe make this one a little bit less corner pointy. And adjust this curve a little bit up here. Okay, it's all looking pretty good. So now what I'm going to do is add those little speckle textures. And to do that, I'm going to click on this. I'm going to set the opacity of the green shape down, like way, way down, so I can see over the top of it. And then I'm going to grab a new tool, which is called the blob brush. And that is, you can get it by clicking on the paintbrush, holding down the mouse, and then dragging down to the blob brush tool. And I'll set the fill to black again. Oops, I accidentally selected the frog. Okay, so blob brush, select black. You can see all the little mistakes I'm making. This is, I'm sure, so hopefully it make you guys feel a little bit better. I can't really tell because of my mouse. It looks like I've got a really small mouse. So using the bracket key next to the P, left or right, can allow you to change the size of these little blobs. And it essentially puts down a circle of color. And so I'm going to set mine to sort of a medium size. But if you click and hold on the blob brush and then drag it around, you can make sort of these just blobby shapes. So you can do little tiny speckles that are like organic speckles really well with the blob brush tool. I'm going to make some that are a little bit smaller, that are really small, by shrinking the size of my blob brush tool. Again, I'm using the keyboard and holding down the left or right bracket, which is the ones that are next to the P. And I'm just going to randomly start putting down some little tiny speckles here. And just drag some little splotches out as well, just to make it look kind of randomized. And down here on the arm as well. So again, this is a really nice way to add really nice organic texture to this whole thing. It does take a little while, but all good things take time. Put a little bit of energy and time into these things. Okay, just a few more of these little guys. Oops, I'm going to hit Command Z. I made one that I didn't like. All right, now I'm going to select the items that I drew already, the body and the eye of the frog here. And I'm going to hit Control or Command and the number 2 to lock them. And then I'm going to click and drag across this whole area with all the little speckles I made. Looks like I missed a few, or I put them on the wrong layer, which I hope I didn't do that. Let's check our layers. For some reason, I accidentally locked, so hit Option Command and 2. Yeah, it looks like I accidentally selected the speckles that I didn't mean to select. So let's grab very carefully the eyeball. Let's see. The eyeball, the little lines, and the frog outline. And hopefully I didn't get any speckles this time. Okay, Command 2. And then click and drag across all these speckles. There we go. All right, now I'm going to, again, adjust the opacity of these guys first. Knock them down to like 85, 86%. Set my opacity to multiply. Maybe even make them a little bit lighter since the black is mixing with the green right now. And then finally I'm going to go to Effect. Looks like I accidentally selected something I didn't want to select in there. Yeah, I got the eyeball in there as well. So I'm going to make that 100% again. Let's lock that. And for some reason, it's not allowing me to go to Effect and select all of these. There we go. Blur, Gaussian blur, blur and Gaussian blur. And I'm going to just add about, looks like maybe a couple of pixels, maybe 2 1/4, 2.5 pixels of blur to it. I'm going to hit OK. And then I'm going to hit Option Command. Again, I'm on a Mac. 2 to unlock these things. I'm going to make sure that I bring the green color back up to 100%. Okay, so I should have, in a perfect world, I would have grouped all those like Aaron suggested I do during class. I forgot again. So I didn't group my little speckles, so it's going to be, I'll have to reselect them all if I want to adjust that opacity, but this is fine for now. I'm going to switch now to my yellow layer. This is in between the green color and the photo layer. And I'm going to draw some of these other shapes. So again, thinking in groups and layers, I'm just going to, again, switch to a stroke instead of a fill. And I'll go ahead and make my stroke this hot pink color again. Fill of 0. And I'm just worrying about these shapes right now. I could probably do this with a rounded rectangle. I'm going to choose the pen tool, and I'll probably end up blurring this a bit as well. And what I'm doing now is I'm drawing the sort of larger, actually, let's just go all the way over here. I'm drawing sort of the larger, darker toned area of the yellow, and then I'll add the highlights in on top after I've done this. And again, this is not necessarily the only way, or probably not even the best way to do this, but it's a way that I do it. And let's go ahead and select this darker yellow color. It's kind of a brownish yellow. Now remember, we can double click on the eyedropper and change this from a point sample to a 3x3 average. So if I hit Command Z, I can then go back and try this color a few times if I want a slightly lighter version of the color. I'm selecting the color from his toe right now because I like it a little bit better. And let's go look at my layers because that doesn't look correct. Yeah, so I'm going to drag this down into the yellow layer. Again, you can grab colors here and drag them between layers by clicking on it and dragging down. So I just move that down, and now I'm going to reset the opacity temporarily, and then I'm going to go ahead and create this highlight shape. And again, this again might be another good spot for the pencil tool because it's kind of rough and organic. So the pencil tool might have been actually a better choice for this. And I'll go ahead and make this a brighter yellow color. Now I have to move this aside here for a minute. And I'm going to grab, using the eyedropper tool, this brighter color. Doesn't seem to want to get that brighter color. So let's just actually go here and see if I can find a yellow. Maybe this orangey yellow. Okay. I'm playing around. I'm trying different things with the eyedropper tool. Let's see what happens when I bring the opacity back up. It's a little bit lighter. Or if I don't like the color, I can always, yeah, it's still too dark. So I'm going to double click it here. And I'm just going to pop that up a little bit, make it a little brighter yellow. And okay. All right, so that's pretty nice. Again, I could go in here to the frog belly. I'm going to sort of leave it where it is and just select that and go back to my full opacity. And all right, that's starting to look good. Yeah, I'll definitely want to add some other detail in here. In fact, I just said I wasn't going to do it, but I want to do it. I'm going to grab that shape and then grab my pencil tool over here. It's underneath the shaper, which is weird. And just grab this, and I'm just going to sort of randomly draw sort of a similar highlight shape here with the pencil tool. And make sure that I use the eyedropper and fill it with that shape. So it matches that forepart a little bit. Okay. And I think also what I'm going to do here is blur the edge on this larger one. So again, Effect, and I'm going to keep the same Gaussian blur, just a couple of pixels. Not too much blur, because when I add this third part, the sort of white underbelly, that'll be beneath it and it'll blur into it a bit. And I'll probably add multiply to that as well. So you can see how I'm just creating this in sort of building separate layers and shapes. I want to do one last thing, which is to add a little bit of a gradient to his back. So I'm going to grab his green color and knock that opacity way down and look and see where I can find sort of a darker and lighter shape. This is really tricky because he's got, a lot of texture going on. So it's pretty tricky. But one thing I can do is, again, I'm going to use the pencil tool. And I'm going to just create sort of a quick organic shape here that kind of mimics this sort of darker shaded area of his body. And again, I'm just drawing with the pen tool. And then I'm going to go ahead and do what I did a minute ago. I'm going to click on this green. And then I'm going to go ahead and bring my opacity back up. And I think that's probably going to be exactly like the other green. And bring the opacity up. Yeah, it's exactly the same. So what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to click into the color here and just drag it down so it's a little bit darker, like that. Hit OK. Okay, and that's starting to get more interesting. I'm going to hit multiply. Oh, that's getting a little weird. Maybe I don't like that. I'm going to go back to normal. So let's see if I hit darken what happens. Oh, darken worked really nicely. Darken did exactly what I wanted to do. So you can play around with these blending modes. Darken sometimes works better than multiply, depending on what you want it to do. And I'm going to adjust these shapes so that it's really, really close to the outline of the frog. And if you guys are looking at this and going, man, he's spending a lot of time working on these little details, that's what I've said in class, that it takes time. It takes a good little while to add these things and to make something look really nice. So I'm going to blur this a little bit too. I'm going Effect and go to a Gaussian blur. And I'm going to make it a little bit more blurry than the other one. Hit OK. So that's looking pretty nice. And now what I might do also is, again, create another shape in here and add a lighter green and make a gradient. But I may not even need to do that. I might just add a couple more of these darker shades into it to get, the sort of depth that I'm looking for. And I think, again, with this back leg, I would create this just the same way I did with the front part of the frog, except that I would, once I created that separate piece, I would just grab that whole back leg and hit it with a blur shape. Just hit it with a blur. So yeah, let's take a look at what this looks like without the background. This turned into kind of a long video, but hopefully this has been really useful for you. So yeah, it looks pretty good. I think, again, once you added the background, added that shadow underneath him, this could be a really nice illustration. Okay, so that's it. Thank you for watching. Let me know if this is useful to you. Appreciate you taking the time.